Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. The Fighting Machine. Leonardo da Vinci was not just a brilliant painter, he was also an exceptional inventor of war machines. In 1482, da Vinci wrote a letter to the Duke of Milan. In the letter, da Vinci claimed that he was innovating weapons of war. He had just drawn up an outline for what was perhaps the first armored vehicle ever invented. The vehicle would have a conical shield housing to protect those within. It would have interior wheels so that it could move around easily. And most importantly, it would have holes for a series of cannons that could be fired at the enemy. The tank would allow soldiers to fire off shots while perfectly protected by the armor exterior. It looked and operated very similarly to a modern tank. But it was never completed, and maybe for good reason, because modern experts think it would have been totally useless in a real fight. The interesting part is that Leonardo's letter to the Duke of Milan was almost like a brochure of military hardware. The letter alludes to a variety of secret weapons that would increase the Duke's power. It really makes you wonder what Leonardo's motivation here was, trying to establish himself as some kind of advanced arms dealer. Leonardo promised that he could come up with ingenious ways to destroy fortresses and strike terror into the heart of the enemy. There is no evidence that the vehicles were ever made. As far as historians know, Leonardo's offer of war machines fell on deaf ears. Number 9. The remaining Da Vincis. 14 living descendants of Leonardo da Vinci have been found. This is following a search spanning decades, with scientists trying to find how many living people can trace their heritage directly to the man who completed the Mona Lisa. The findings were published in the journal Human Evolution. Researchers with the Leonardo da Vinci DNA project identified 21 generations in Leonardo's family tree. They were hoping that by finding his relatives, they would learn more about his staggering intelligence. They also want to know more about his extraordinary visual quality, which was almost an extra sense, along with his hereditary sickness and curious left-handedness. Researchers came across the descendants by gathering data from historical documents and by looking at accounts from his earlier descendants. But for privacy reasons, they haven't been able to release any information that is too specific. All they said is that the descendants range in age from 1 to 85. They live in Tuscany, and most appear to be ordinary people. They're employed in public and private sectors. Some work as traders. They said the people they identified are all extraordinary from their personal view. Unfortunately, scientists are no closer to finding out the secret of Leonardo's genius. He didn't have any children of his own, so his living descendants are technically all from his siblings. Number 8. Mona Lisa's bones. Experts may have discovered the bones of the Mona Lisa, or rather the model who posed for the painting called the Mona Lisa. The model Leonardo da Vinci used was a woman of noble birth named Lisa Gherardini di Giocondo. That's according to wealthy Florentine silk merchant Francesco del Giocondo. He wrote that Leonardo used his wife as a subject in one of his paintings. Renaissance historians agree that Lisa makes the best sense for the identity of the woman in the portrait. Recently, archaeologists were investigating a tomb buried underneath the altar of a ruined Florence convent. They found dusty human bones buried in the rubble. Scientists used radiocarbon tests to estimate the date of the bones. They believe the person they belonged to died around 1542, the same time that Lisa Gherardini perished at the age of 63. To make matters even more convincing, Lisa died while living with her daughter Marietta, who was a nun at the convent. The dating matches, and so does the situation. The bones very well could be all that remain of the woman in the famous painting. Head researcher Silvano Vincetti said it is very likely that the bones are an exact match with Lisa. Unfortunately, scientists can't prove it. They have now completed tests on the bone fragments and come up empty-handed. Forensic anthropologist Giorgio Gruppioni said the fragments are just too deteriorated to get a reliable result. Even if the test had confirmed the bones belonged to Lisa, that still wouldn't have solved the mystery of if she truly was the model Leonardo used for the painting. Although Renaissance experts believe it was Lisa beyond any shadow of a doubt, not everyone is convinced. Some believe Leonardo used multiple models. Others think he used a male model. One of the more unusual theories is that Leonardo da Vinci painted himself in disguise as a woman. Number 7. Mary Magdalene and the Last Supper. Is Mary Magdalene sitting next to Jesus Christ in the Last Supper? It's a question that has been asked for centuries. Leonardo da Vinci painted the Last Supper between 1495 and 1498. It might look small when viewing the picture on the internet, but in real life it is enormous. The picture is 15 by 29 feet, covering the whole wall of the dining hall in the convent of Santa Maria della Grazia in Milan. The painting is also in a precarious state. Leonardo used dry plaster as opposed to wet plaster. This caused the painting to start flaking almost right away. For centuries, various people have struggled to keep it alive. The event depicted in the painting is, of course, the final supper of Jesus Christ as chronicled in the Gospels. It was the evening that he was betrayed by Judas, leading to his arrest and execution. At the supper, Christ tells his disciples how to remember him in the future, using the famous metaphor of food and drink as his body. The main thing about Leonardo's version of events is that he painted what appears to be a woman on Christ's right. At least a woman by modern opinion. The figure is most likely John, but it's been speculated that Leonardo secretly meant the figure to be Mary Magdalene. It wasn't that unusual for a man to be painted with such feminine features in the 15th century. If Leonardo had painted a woman at the Last Supper, he undoubtedly would have been burned alive for heresy. These were the days of the Inquisition. There was just no way he could have gotten away with it. Maybe Mary Magdalene was at the supper and maybe she wasn't, but it's unlikely that Leonardo had put her in the painting as a secret. It may have cost him his life. Number 6. The Satellite Map. Leonardo da Vinci was a painter, an inventor of war machines, and a revolutionary scientist. One of his more unusual works is a map of the small Italian town of Imola, completed in 1502. Not many know of it, but the map is still an extremely important piece of artwork. It was way ahead of its time. Leonardo da Vinci painted the city from a bird's eye view. The map looks exactly like a satellite image, made 500 years before satellites ever existed. In 1499, Army Commander Cesare Borgia seized the city of Imola. It was a great difficulty because conquering a city with such great fortifications required a lot of meticulous detailing and a thorough understanding of the place. It was especially tough to do without a satellite map. In 1502, Cesare appointed Leonardo da Vinci general architect and engineer. One of the first things da Vinci did was create the satellite image of Imola for the commander. It's really wild to think that da Vinci saw so far ahead into the future that he understood how important these types of images would eventually be. He experimented with flying machines and drew aerial maps as if he had explicit knowledge of the future. Number 5. Discovering gravity. Leonardo da Vinci understood gravity in the 1500s, before Galileo, Newton, and Einstein. Recent new information from a team at Caltech, which studied da Vinci's famous notebooks, says he was experimenting with gravity as a form of acceleration. He was at about 97% accuracy when it came to modeling the gravitational constant. Professor Maury Garib, one of the researchers at Caltech, said nobody knows if da Vinci completed further experiments, but they say he was definitely wrestling with the problem in the early 1500s. That means he was exploring the concept of gravity before Galileo Galilei in 1604. Long before Sir Isaac Newton came up with the law of universal gravitation in the 17th century, and of course before Albert Einstein's equivalence principle in 1907. Researchers believe the only thing that held da Vinci back was the fact that he didn't have the right tools to continue his work. The little work da Vinci did complete in pursuit of understanding gravity can be found in the Codex Arundel. Number 4. Was da Vinci an alien? Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe was the host of a small cable TV show called Fortean TV in the 1990s. Lionel recently claimed that aliens visited Earth centuries ago and gave Leonardo da Vinci access to unimaginable knowledge. Lionel said the only way to explain Leonardo's incredible intelligence is that he was given it by even more intelligent beings. It may seem crazy, but I guess there's an aspect of logic to it. Lionel went on to say that he believes life from other planets has been to Earth, and that they interacted with certain people, giving them information nobody else could hope to have. People like Leonardo, Plato, Socrates, and Einstein. Lionel said it's almost more unbelievable to think the genius of Da Vinci and others like him is a coincidence. There's obviously no proof that Leonardo da Vinci was given his genius by aliens, but do you think there's a chance it could be true? Or what if history's greatest minds were aliens themselves? Let me know what you think in the comments, and be sure to subscribe while you're at it. Number 3. The Master's Mother. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding Leonardo da Vinci is that nobody knows exactly who his mother was. But Renaissance scholar Carlo Vecce believes he may have the answers. Carlo says da Vinci's mom was trafficked into Italy as a slave. He says her name was Caterina, and that she came from the Caucasus. He even wrote a book about it called The Smile of Caterina, the mother of Leonardo. According to Carlo, he came upon evidence of Leonardo's mother while looking through documents at the State Archives in Florence in 2019. He found a document dated to the fall of 1452, signed by Leonardo's father, Ser Piero. In the document, Leonardo's dad said that he freed Caterina from her mistress and owner, Mona Ginevra. The document dates to just a few months after Leonardo was born. Carlo says the fact that it's signed is all the proof he needs that she was most definitely the mother of the great master. 2 years prior to the document, Caterina had been given to a Florentine knight to be used as a wet nurse, but it's unclear how she and Ser Piero met. Carlo was hoping to find out more by continuing his research in Moscow. However, the COVID-19 pandemic halted his travel plans. Now, with the war in Ukraine, doing any kind of research in Russia is basically impossible. As for what researchers already knew before this bombshell, Leonardo did have a mother named Caterina, and his father was a notary. He was born out of wedlock. After his birth, both parents married other people. Leonardo grew up on his father's estate, and his mother didn't appear to be in the picture much. Up until now, academics assumed Caterina was a peasant. Learning she was a slave from Central Asia is an enormous discovery. Number 2. Mirror writing. During his long life, Leonardo da Vinci produced somewhere between roughly 20,000 and 28,000 pages of notes. Notes and sketches of scientific advancements and incredible feats of engineering. To safeguard his many pages of notes, the Italian painter came up with a discreet way to write them. He used something called mirror writing in all of his journals. Leonardo wrote starting on the right side of the page and moving to the left side of the page, something that would have made any ordinary person dizzy. He also inverted the letters. Anyone who knew what was going on would be able to decipher his journals given enough time and access to a mirror. But someone who was just trying to glance through his work would be baffled and come up with nothing. The reason it's called mirror writing is that the only way to easily read his notes would have been to hold them up in a mirror. The big thing researchers want to know is how Leonardo came up with the trick. Did he learn it from somebody else? Or was this another one of his genius inventions? Furthermore, why did he feel the need to hide his notes? Was Leonardo paranoid? Did he believe somebody was after his intentions? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Number 1. Where was the Mona Lisa painted? The model Leonardo used to create the Mona Lisa was most likely Lisa Gherardini del Giocondo. But there's another question most people don't bother asking, and that question is, where was the Mona Lisa painted? The background of the portrait is all dark swirls, making it look like she may have been painted against a wilderness backdrop. There appears to be an aqueduct or bridge in the distance spanning a river, but it's all incredibly vague. The best guess art historians have is that the structure in the background is the Romito di Laterina Bridge. Silvano Vincetti recently studied the bridge with a drone in Tuscany, not far from the town of Arezzo. Silvano is the same researcher who was involved in the recent research of Lisa Gherardini's alleged bones that were found in Florence. You might call him obsessed with Leonardo and his secrets. The bridge is an ancient Etruscan-era structure built around 2,000 years ago or more. It once spanned the Arno River but is currently in ruins. Only a single one of its arches remains, but in the 16th century it still stood. Merchants used the bridge as a shortcut to travel between the two banks of the river. Historical papers even show that Da Vinci sometimes stayed in the nearby town of Fiesole with his uncle. It's also confirmed that he traveled through this particular part of Tuscany in the 1500s. Silvano made a digital reconstruction of the bridge. He measured the width of the river and the lengths of all the arches. Then he compared everything to the piece of artwork. The measurements, along with Leonardo being in the area around the time the painting was made, are two very convincing points. Silvano is now positive that this was the exact spot the Mona Lisa was created. Thanks for watching! What's your favorite work by Leonardo da Vinci? Do you prefer his inventions or his paintings? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and come back soon. Bye!